Hello, good evening. My name is Herman, and I'll be doing this session with you. Please could you help me to get started by just indicating if you are able to hear me okay. If you could type at the bottom of your chat screen, there's Shalane says, Shalane, sorry. Okay, it sounds good. Brilliant. Everybody can hear me, and that there's nothing bad about that. The only bad thing is that you have to listen to me for the next hour or so. So, but at least you can hear me. I do have a tendency to get a bit excited at times, and then I talk too loudly. So please feel free to give me feedback and tell me to quiet down. I will appreciate that. And also, you occasionally may experience a dip in the sound quality. Unfortunately, it's not something that we can prevent because it is caused by bandwidth issues on your system at your end. So whatever you do, when you, for brief periods, do not hear so clearly, don't go away, don't switch off, don't desert the team, stay with us, keep going. The sound will return and it will improve. So there might be occasional dips in the process. Brilliant. So here we are at the start of the semester, and all of you are keen to go. What this session is about is just to help you with some basic guidelines. You will see that I will not disclose anything remotely of the magnificence of the Holy Grail tonight. I'm just going to go with you through some home truths about studying and being a student and how to get the best value for your money out of this experience. It's an overview of the semester aimed at giving you some tips, some guidelines, some suggestions on ensuring that you have a good experience and that you do well and that you pass with flying colors. It is something which many students do, so it's not at all impossible. All that is needed is some help. You need to know that we are supporting you, we are there for you, and you're not going to feel, what's the word? You're not going to feel lost and lonely. We are there to support you, to help you, and you just need to know where to look for the help and support. And hopefully tonight's session will assist in that. What are we going to look at tonight? We're going to give a brief overview of the semester itself. I'm going to remind you of the important role eLearn plays in assisting you to be successful. I'm going to touch on the academic support pillars which are in place to make sure that you have a good experience. And I heard this word today, and I was looking forward to an opportunity to use it. So here comes. We are going to help you get an elevating experience. Isn't that beautiful? With the academic support which we are going to provide for you. We're going to look at referencing, some technical requirements. What are the things, the characteristics, the character traits which ensure student success? And lastly, we'll touch on the graduation. So, when looking at the semester ahead of you, there are two key dates which you need to be aware of. The first date is the assignment submission date, which is the 13th of March. And as you know from previous experience, the deadline hour, or the hour of reckoning there, is 3 o'clock. I always recommend to students to seriously consider submitting their assignments a day or two before the 13th of March, and definitely well before 3 o'clock. It is always heartbreaking to stand there on submission dates and to see people arriving just 5 or 10 minutes too late. And of course, the net result of that is that your marks take a dip at the rate of 25% immediately when you submit late. So please make sure that you submit earlier. It just makes life for everybody so much easier if you don't have to rush here at the very last minute. Students always find that because that deadline time draws a lot of people to the student support centers, there are traffic jams, there are delays. Your laptop may sense your anxiety as you try and print the assignment at 2:30 on that afternoon, and it may refuse to cooperate with your plans. So if you print it early, if you bind it early, put the cover sheet on, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's no reason for anxiety or tension. Another important date is the start of the examination season. A season which normally lasts about 2 weeks. This semester it will start on the 14th of May, and if you go to your module website on eLearn, you will see the examination schedule or calendar sitting there, and this means that already now you can start planning to be prepared on the days on which you are scheduled to write. So those are important dates, but unfortunately, my story about those important dates doesn't end here. I'm going to go on for a bit, if you'll allow me. Why am I giving you on the slide those two dates? Because they are most probably dates which you are already familiar with. What is the reason for me putting them up there and emphasizing those dates and those times? There's a simple truth locked up in those two dates, and that is that people who've done a lot of research on students and what it is that makes some students successful and others not successful, those researchers found that successful students have clear objectives for every semester. A successful student would be the one who takes that date, the 13th of March, and works backwards from that date. In other words, if I have to submit on the 13th of March, there are 4 questions to answer. This means I have about 5 days per question. That means by Monday, which is roughly 5 days from today, I need to have question 1 complete. And a successful student would have a schedule like that written up, and they would plan around that written schedule and make sure that they stick to it and complete things on time. Unsuccessful students have a vague idea about the submission date, and maybe a day or 2 before they'll start searching for the assignment questions and start working on it the night before. Obviously, something like that doesn't work very well, and you just create so much tension and anxiety in your life if that is how you approach it. The same is true for the examination sessions. You can plan for that already now by putting those dates down and working according to a schedule so that you are ready on the exam dates. That sound you heard in the background was little old me typing. I'm sorry, it sounds a bit like a machine gun, most probably, but I'm not a touch typist, so I don't do very well with the typing. As you can see, my spelling, even my spelling isn't up to date, and my use of capitals is pretty random, so sorry about that. But Sally Ann, yeah, I think I need a whole new outfit to make this sound better, but right. So those are the important dates around which you need to plan your life this semester. Up until the end of May, I think that would take care of your academic planning. On this slide, I just remind you of the important role eLearn plays in the student life. You, of course, log onto eLearn using your student number and a PIN. The PIN is normally sent to you after your registration. It comes to you via an SMS, and I think it's only reasonable to expect of students to visit the module website on eLearn once, twice a week, so that you are on top of new news that may be published there, that you are aware of what's going on. So log on, look at that, and on the module website you'll find the study guide, of course, in PDF format to print off if you want to. There is the PACER, which is a very important document in that it sets targets for you for every week. Every week until you have to submit the assignment. Every week until you write your exam. So that PACER document is pretty valuable and important. You will also find on eLearn that examination timetable to have an idea already of the dates on which you will be writing your exams. I think most students, once they are at your stage in the process, in other words, after they've completed their first few semesters at the IMM Graduate School, they tend to choose their modules in accordance with the spread of the examination sessions. So perhaps you're already aware of that exam timetable, but have a look at it again if you have not had an opportunity to do so yet. Most of the modules will also have a module forum or an online forum where you can pose questions, and an academic is responsible for checking on these on a regular basis and is then required to respond to questions you may post on the forum. Often you will find that questions are answered by your peers, by other people who are studying the same module. And it's a brilliant opportunity for you to learn from other students who are doing the same module, who may be experiencing the same pressures and challenges which you are part of, or which are part of your life. There's also on the module forum, or rather the module platform, the online tutorial dates. Online tutorials are sessions just like this one, lasting an hour, 2 hours, hour and a half, and it's an opportunity to hear from a subject specialist talking about the module itself. There would normally be an online tutorial before the assignment submission for most modules, in which the academic will have a look at the assignment and will help you find a way to successfully complete that assignment. A similar online tutorial will be scheduled for just before the exam, a week or two before the exam. So have a presence on the eLearn module platforms, and you will see those dates coming up regularly. Just like this session, those online tutorials are all taped, or recorded, and are posted on the module website a few days after the session had taken place. eLearn, yes, this recording will be uploaded onto eLearn. It won't happen overnight, or perhaps not even this week, but by Monday it should be up and available for you to listen to again and have a look at the notes on the slides again. Right, so those are the important things that you need to be aware of in terms of eLearn. On the next slide, I have a list for you of the important academic resources which are available to you. They almost, in a way, the pillars of the academic support process here at the IMM Graduate School. First of all, there's eLearn. We've talked about that already. There's the study guide and the textbook. You need to work through those two resources in tandem. You cannot ignore the one and focus just on the other. The study guide and the textbook are mutually supportive of each other. These two resources are there to fill gaps for each other. So make sure that you are familiar with both, that you work through both those resources. A very important support structure for students is the Student Support Center. In Johannesburg, as most of you will know, there are 3 support centers. The main center here in Mill Park, there's a support center in Sandton and one in Greenstone on the East Rand. Now, those buildings are there to house people who are in those buildings to help you. So please make use of that. I, again today, was so amazed when I spoke to a student and she said to me that she was struggling so much with this or that, and that caused her to not pass the exam. And I said to her, but where are you based? And she said, in Sandton. And I had to ask her, why don't you just, over a lunch break, get into the car, come here, go to reception, and ask somebody to help you. It's often as easy as that. The support centers are there to help you. Shalane, yes, the support center should have a copy of the study guide. You should get it from the support center. I know for a fact, Shalane, that we have study guides here at the Mill Park Center, and you can just walk in, ask for it, and as Marika is saying, it's for free. You needn't pay anything for it. So, yes, they should be available at Greenstone as well. So the support centers are there to help you. There are the online tutorials, which I mentioned already. We have, in terms of library resources, an amazing new library, online library platform available. ProQuest is there now. It's much expanded when compared to Emerald, which you used before. In fact, I was saying to a student earlier today that chances are when you go onto the ProQuest platform, you may be overwhelmed by the magnificence, I could almost call it, of the resources there. There are lots of journals which you can access, and that is important because remember, once you are a second or a third year student, one of the key requirements of your assignments is that you need to list in the reference list in the region of 8 to 10 resources that you've consulted. In other words, you will need to go beyond just your learner guide, or study guide rather. Beyond your study guide and your textbook, you need to consult journal articles, and those are available in huge abundance on the e-library platform. Like most academic resources, you will not gain a huge advantage from going to these platforms at the last minute because there's just too much. You need to find a way to navigate through these library resources. So don't leave it until the very last day before you have to submit the assignment. Go there tonight. After this session is over, spend 15 minutes just checking it out. You will see that in addition to the e-library platform progress, there is also a list of, I think, 16 or 18 open platforms which are available to you now, which you can go to, and the information is sitting there waiting for you to tap into it. There's also a very interesting new document, at least I found it interesting compiling it on eLearn, frequently asked questions. Please have a look at it, print it out, and while you're sitting on the bus or on the train, while you are being driven to work by a colleague or your significant other, when you have a moment, just page through that document with frequently asked questions. The wealth of information and support material which is sitting there will take your breath away. Okay, maybe I'm going too far in saying that. It may not take your breath away, but I think it will impress you. It will help you definitely, that's for sure. It will answer many of the questions you may have had in the past, and it will help you overcome problem situations. So have a look at that document and see what is available there. Another very exciting new document which is available on eLearn is the how-to guide to making your life as a student a lot easier. Now, that's a long title, but you will see that this is huge, and it contains, for example, short, digestible examples on how to reference. It can tell you in interesting and engaging ways, I hope, how to cite sources. It will tell you how to structure an assignment so that you may gain maximum marks out of it. Prosper, yes, the session is being recorded. And you will be able to access the file on eLearn round about Monday. But to return to the slide, so this how to make your life easier as a student is hugely helpful, and I enjoyed working on it. In putting it together, I tried to think of my days as a distance learning student and trying to remember what the things are which you are battling with, which you are confronted with and maybe don't know how to solve. So I tried to put as much into that document as possible to make your life easier. All the module platforms will also have 3 past examination papers. Now those papers are sitting there as a support mechanism to help you understand how the exam for that module is normally structured. It's definitely not sitting there as an example of the question content that you may expect. In other words, don't try and look at those thinking that you can use it as a predictor of what you need to study to pass. It's not even remotely that. It's just an idea of the structure of the exams. There's also a past assignment paper with its guideline. Remember, at your level, when you've moved beyond the first year, The guideline for marking assignments is exactly that. It's a broad guideline. We cannot put into that guideline everything that you can possibly write to gain marks for. So the markers have a broader range of things that they are aware of, which you can put in an answer, and the guideline is just a very broad one. Then there is the very, very important IMM Graduate School Harvard Referencing Guide. The IMM is, like most universities, becoming more and more pedantic about referencing. That is due to the growing incidence of plagiarism and information theft, which is happening around the world at universities. So it would be so amazing if you could also print that referencing guide and start getting more familiar with it, so that you know how to reference and that you know how to reference correctly. If you spend some time just reading through that, looking at that, you will hopefully chance upon the fact that referencing is dead simple. It's not remotely as complicated and as challenging as most people think. There is an undeniable logic to referencing, but you're only going to discover it once you look at the referencing guide and you understand how referencing depends on two things for its existence. It depends on citations in the text, and every citation needs to be matched with a source listed in your reference list at the end of the document. So please spend some time looking at that referencing guide and getting familiar with how to do it correctly. The process of negative marking is now in place with all modules, except the finance or numbers modules. Negative marking means that a marker is now required to deduct marks from you for poor referencing, for poor structure, for not using the right font size and all that type of thing. It means, in other words, that your mark could go from 90%, for example, to 80%, and you could lose so much by not following the referencing guidelines. Gilly, thank you for saying that. And I can assure you that next semester you'll see an even more of an improvement, because these platforms are requiring constant updating, constant improvement and expansion. So those are the academic resources which are available to you. In terms of the assignments which you are working on now, I hope so, that you've already made a start with completing the assignments. I'm just repeating there, first of all, the requirement that at second and third year level, you need to show more than 8 references in your reference list. You need to have proof of the fact that you've dipped into academic journals and that you've read academic journals on the concepts which you use in the assignment answers. Second and third year, you need to be able to ace the referencing thing. Your referencing needs to be good. Markers will check it with a fine-tooth comb. I've already referred you to the library resource ProQuest. It's hugely more in volume than Emerald was. It's hugely more user-friendly than Emerald was, and it's going to be an amazing experience for you when you go and look at it and you see the wealth of information which is available there. I actually sometimes wonder if students will not be a bit overwhelmed when they see how much is there on ProQuest. Inherent in that fact, inherent in that nicety of volume is, of course, also the danger that if you type in, for example, a search term like brand expansion, you're likely to be overwhelmed by the 260 options which could show up there on your screen. So start exploring this facility early so that you can learn to navigate your way around that fact. There are so many options available, and you need to learn how to be more discerning about the one on which you click, the one which you read, because a lot will come up for every search term that you insert there. Tina, yes, there will be assignment webinars. Those dates are in the process of being published, and you will see it popping up within the next day or two. In addition to the ProQuest library platform, we also have a list of 16 to 18 open sources which are available. So those are additional platforms offering free access to students around the world. And once again, it's an amazing opportunity. It could put your assignment just into another orbit. You could just make something amazing out of your assignment if you learn to use those resources, and if you do so with some discernment and some knowledge of what these resources are about and what the writers say in these sources. I thought I'm going to run the risk of perhaps boring some of you, because this is very basic, but here's an example of a citation, how citations could be used. And I inserted it here because students seem to be unaware of the fact that an in-text citation can appear in your assignment in a wide range of guises, in different ways. And it becomes such an amazing feeling of power when you know how to use a citation, and you do so with some freedom and with some individuality and with some mastery. So I just thought I'd give you a few examples. What I'm referring to here is an article which I read about how important exercise is when you are studying. I think that the author, Sheila Cameron, wrote this because most of us, when we study, become so involved in our studies, and we're trying to juggle so many lives that we neglect exercising. And she wrote this article on exercising and how important it is for students. Now I want to refer to this article in my answer. And there are 4 different ways in which I could do it. I could, in the first sentence, just refer to the surname. Then the date goes in brackets, and she suggests whatever. The second example, I start with the surname of the author, this date in brackets, and I complete the sentence. Then there's a third option where I don't mention the author by name in my sentence as such. I just say that an author, but I still have to cite it because I'm going to say in my sentence what this author had said. And if I do not cite her, it means that I'm plagiarizing. And then the last example is maybe the more commonly used one for most students, where they cite at the end of the sentence. In brackets, the surname and the date of the publication. Please note, if you do it like that, the full stop, which belongs to the sentence, comes after the citation. So those are just 2 very simple examples of citing a source in your answer. I see Rosie is typing the question there. Let's see. Any of you have any questions about that? You're welcome, of course, to type a question in that dialog box on your screen. Oh, Rosie has now gone away. Oh, yes, it is. Rosie, I'm so glad you say that it's simple, because it is. It's all you need for good citation is simply the author's surname and the date, the year of publication, and that's all. You've done your citation. So it is simple, but it is a pity that we do forget sometimes to do that. Just remember, just remember as well, if you use information from the study guide, you have to reference that as well. You have to cite it and you have to reference it. So in your Harvard referencing guide on eLearn, you will see an example of how to do that correctly. Unfortunately, we can't go into all that much detail during a short session like this. I have also made a list for you, a very basic list of what a reference list looks like. Remember that as the marker works through your assignment answer, every time the marker comes across a citation, they will immediately turn the pages to the very last page in your submission and look for the reference to the citation. So the reference list is very important, and as always, there is a recipe for a good reference list. The first reference there is a simple, straightforward reference from a textbook or an academic book. There's nothing to it. The surname, the initial, the date, the title in italics, the place where, or city where it was published, and the name of the publisher. The second one is slightly more complicated, but the recipe remains the same. What do you do when there are two authors? And I'll give you an example there. Surname initial and surname initial, date. The title of the publication in italics and the city of publication as well as the publisher at the end. Then I give you an example there of a web article. Now, Prosper, I will answer your question in this process. Most web articles have an author. You just need to look for it a bit. Most of these have an author, and there is an example of how you do a web source in your reference list. Most students start the reference with www. If you do that, you must know that you are not doing the right thing. No reference can start with the web address HTTP or www. The next reference there, Prosper, is an example of a web article referenced for which there is no author. So in that case, you use the name of the web article without, or rather the name of the website without the www, and you do it like I've done there on eatout.co.za. We then come to an example of a journal article and how to reference that. Still the recipe remains the same. Surname, initials, date. The title of the article in inverted commas and the name of the journal in italics. And the last example there is one which often causes headaches to students. You will know that in, for example, your business management textbook, that textbook was compiled by an editor. Now, how do you reference something like that, where there's an editor, but the individual chapters were written by other people? The job of the editor was to collect these chapters and to put it all together for the publisher. In that case, you use the example I'm giving there at the bottom of the list. The name, or rather the surname of the person who wrote the chapter is what you start with. The date, you give the title of the chapter, and you say in, and you give the name, surname rather, of the editor, the title of the book, and all the rest like you would normally. So I know this is very basic and it's very pared down, but it gives you something to work with. I've tried to collect in the slide examples of the most commonly used sources, and I hope you will find that useful. Maybe before I go on, to the next slide, could I ask, are there any questions? Any questions about that? Or are you more or less, Marika is typing a question. All good? Tadiwa? Good, okay. Shalani, let's see, before we go on, all good. Okay, it seems as if most people are on board. Can I ask you to be sensitive to the fact that there is a recipe to follow for each one of those? Can you see that essentially they are all the same? They follow the same recipe. So once you cotton onto that fact, you start to understand that referencing is actually dead simple. It's like falling off a log. It's so easy to do. You just need to do it a few times so that you become aware of the inherent rhythm in doing referencing. And then you home free. Tadiwa, you asking about the how to reference from an internet source, and I think Shalani answered you there. And the fourth example I have on this slide is also an example of an internet source. Right. On this slide, I've written down a collection of what researchers tell us are the most prominent character traits of successful students. They tell us that students who are successful in their studies are acutely aware of certain deadline dates, and they plan their lives around those deadline dates. Every deadline date needs a plan of action in order to achieve the objective with the deadline. So on that date, you need to be somewhere with your studies, and you work backwards from that date. If I have to submit on this date, it means that by now I should have done so much work already. Another important thing is to try and kill the propensity to postpone. Postponing, or what's the other word for postponing? There's a better word for it. I can't think of it at the moment. But postponing is a sweet thing. There we are, Sally Ann, thank you. Procrastination. No. I can relax. Thank you. Procrastination is a sweet thing when you do it, but it gets to you in the end. And unfortunately, because you are not around people who check you all the time, it's easy to procrastinate. So please try and kill that habit and do something tonight. If I haven't worn you out totally with this session, spend a few minutes tonight and just do something about your assignments. Another important key to student success is familiarity with Harvard referencing. Make sure you know how to do that. The other issue I've got listed there is a reminder of the fact that successful students ask for clarity early. Unsuccessful students walk around for days wondering about things that they don't understand. The best option is to ask early. ask for assistance, ask a colleague, ask somebody at the IMM, pick up the phone, email, make a plan to ask. That implies also that people who are successful participate. They don't withdraw and try and make things work on their own. The way that you are participating in the session tonight by asking questions is a good example. If you ask questions, you learn. When you learn, you broaden your experience base. You become aware of other options. You become aware of better ways of doing things. So don't walk around for days not being sure what to do. Rosie, yes, I see that it's becoming more and more an acceptable thing to do for students to start WhatsApp groups. So if you want to do that, that's another way of going about it. Be alert to the online tutorial sessions. An online tutorial session, just like the one you're attending now, will be scheduled for the assignment. Another one, at least, will be scheduled for before the exam. Keep an eye open for these sessions. The dates and the times of these sessions are published beforehand. You're likely to receive an SMS, perhaps even, to alert you to the fact that the session is going to take place. Try and participate. Always remember that if something unforeseen should happen and you can't participate, you can't be there on the evening of the session, you can always catch up by listening to and watching the session on eLearn, because these sessions are recorded and you have the option of watching it, listening to it afterwards. I've already referred to the online library and the amazing resource which is available to you there. The last one on that list is a call up to you to make an effort with your assignments. Have a look at this How to Guide on eLearn. It gives you an idea of the characteristics of a very good assignment. Try and make an effort with your assignment, because if you do make an effort, it's immediately obvious to the marker. And right away, you are in a league separate from the pack. And the marker notices this, and you are just going to go places. If you have a good assignment mark, you don't go into the examination with a bad semester mark or a weak semester mark. So that is something which you can make a difference with in your life as a student. Let's move on to the next one. It's just a reminder to you to visualize that proud moment of the graduation. Annually in April, it becomes a month of celebration here at the IMM Graduate School, because that's when you graduate, you get your certificate. But of course, more important than the certificate itself is the fact that you acknowledge a stage in your life which you had reached with success because you had learned, you had absorbed information, new ways of doing things, new ways of looking at things. So we need to just be mindful of that very important event in your life. Isabel, you could come in and ask for the certificate after graduation, but why don't you rather plan to be at the graduation in person? so that you can celebrate with some members of your family and feel that elation of your name being called out, and you walk up to the stage and you get capped or you get given your certificate on stage. Okay, there are some important contact details at the end of which sits somebody who can help you. First of all, there's the email address, academic/UG for undergraduate at immgsm.ac.za. Then there is the telephone number of the IMM, which I am sure you are aware of, and which you are welcome to use. So please make sure of that, or rather make use of that, and feel free to make contact with us and to ask the switchboard to put you through to somebody who can help you. That's my story for the evening. I hope it's given you some additional handles on the semester and on what you can do to make your life as a student easier and more successful. Please don't feel isolated, don't feel lonely. Make contact with somebody. Post a question on the module website discussion forum. Phone in, send an email, go to the Student Support Center, ask for help. You are definitely not alone in this. You will also know as a more senior student or more experienced student that it's important to ask for the help and support of your family. Involve them as well. Make sure that you are not alone, that you don't do this on your own. Romini, thank you for your thank yous. Thank you for attending. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being out there and listening to me, droning on forever. But we are now at the end of it, and I wish every single one of you a very, very successful semester. May you enjoy it. May you find the space and the time to not only try and pass, but to make of this learning and a growth experience. Thank you very